Hey casters, welcome back to episode number 5 of MetaZoo News, the podcast. This week, we were a little light on news, but we do have a few different things to cover. Not as much as the previous episodes, so this one might be just a bit shorter than what you have come to expect. But all that being said, we do have some stuff from the latest MetaZoo Monday, which happened on September 29th, 2025. The first of which is how MetaZoo artwork comes to life. So this MetaZoo Monday was all about looking and appreciating at the artists' efforts that they have put out into the world of MetaZoo to make it what it is. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb here to say that all of us were drawn into MetaZoo, not only by the concept, but by the art of what it looked like. Being able to see the cryptids that you grew up with, the stories your families would tell, illustrated on a card right there for you. That really is the magic of MetaZoo. So we got a little peek under the hood here. They brought in Brad from GQL. That's Brad Thompson, one of the art directors from GameCubator Labs. He goes on to explain what the process is in terms of his position at a minimum when it comes to art. So Brad said, quote, "It varies from piece to piece. It's a multi-step process. We review at every stage of development, checking against the original brief and concept sent to the artist, and the work reflects the game mechanics, name of the card, and creative through line for the card set. All of this addition to check against our reference materials and brand guidelines." So there definitely is a very deliberate system set up to ensure consistency across the brand, while maintaining the level of surprise that New MetaZoo has come to show us in terms of what art can look like, the different styles, and of course the different depictions of cryptids. One thing that didn't come up MetaZoo Monday, but I thought was an interesting point, it came up I think last week, not in a MetaZoo Monday I don't think, but just in the Discord. You had a user who was a little concerned about the consistency of the art in terms of depictions of the same cryptid. So I believe the example here was in the base set, there are 3 different depictions of the Chupacabra, completely different looking. And this person brought up that, one of the good things about old MetaZoo was that everyone looked consistent. They had specific guidelines of what a cryptid were to look like for different artists to follow. Of course, everyone puts their own touch on things, but I do think that having some consistent branding is, of course, a good idea. Now, when we're talking about this MetaZoo, or these MetaZoo cards, the Chupacabra, again, I cannot recall which GQL staff member talked about this, or if it was a MetaZoo staff member. But the answer was, if you go and look at those 3 cards, you actually see Chupacabra at 3 stages of development. Effectively a child, a teenager, or adolescence, whatever you want to call it, and the adult Chupacabra. And so there we can sort of see that there's not necessarily this wild range of how one can depict a cryptid, but more or less how one depicts different stages of a cryptid's life growing up. So that did quell the commentators' anxiety about that. They even turned in to say that it was a really good idea. And they asked if MetaZoo planned on doing any more of that. And I believe the answer was no, not in the immediate future, but something to think about when you are looking at different MetaZoo cards. Maybe you see some inconsistencies with how cryptids are depicted. Things like that come up and happen, and of course GQL and MetaZoo don't go out and tell everyone, hey, by the way, these 3 cards depict, the growing stages of the Chupacabra. It's just sort of there for you to look at and interpret, and of course ask questions about. That's the beauty of Discord and MetaZoo. They will actually answer your questions, which is nice. But that's a little aside there, but Brad did, like I said, reveal a good deal of what he does, at least in terms of art. In that same vein, we had several community members ask about the amount of darkness, the darkness setting, so to say, of Torrential Tides. How dark will the dark set get? And so one of the community members asked if they had any boundary pushing kind of art in the new set that goes beyond the PG-13 territory that MetaZoo has sort of crafted itself around in the past. Anonymous Bob, shout out to him and the Jackalope podcast, by the way. We love Anonymous Bob. He says, quote, "We like staying in the PG-13 lane. This may be an unpopular opinion, but I think parameters help creativity." And just like he said, I do think that instead of using purely just shock and awe, for lack of a better term, or gore or what have you, giving some guidelines like that don't explicitly exclude a portion of the population, aka children, while keeping the dark theme, I think is like that sweet spot that you try your best to hit. Not always successfully, but I do think that in the dark set, we will see some boundary pushing art. Again, like even in Torrential Tides with Mana and Gal, that artwork, especially like the alt art, that's spooky. I mean, that's creepy. That's fairly dark. Now, what we don't see, is a huge amount of blood, gore, that kind of thing. But we do see these terrifying cryptids put in terrifying situations. And I think that, in and of itself, is pushing a boundary and is encouraging us to look a little deeper into the card to see what exactly is happening when I'm looking at this picture. What is it being depicted? What kind of feeling do the people or cryptids in that picture feel? Or what is it meant for me to feel when I look into this picture, the user, the caster? So I do think the PG-13 thing is not necessarily a bad idea or an unpopular opinion, but I do think that for sets like this, they should try to push a little more, just because people expect it with a dark set. I mean, at least I would assume people would expect it, but regardless. Other than that, Brad also had to say, quote, "I would say we push boundaries in ways that best serve the IP, the audience, and our characters. We didn't try to push edginess just for the sake of doing it," end quote. And I think that jives really well with what we just said. And it's good to always get a little peek under the hood of the creative process here. All right. So that is our first news item. Up next, we have a fun little segment, which was the MetaZoo Community Wish List. So when asked what products fans would love to see, a lot of you chimed in with some pretty creative ideas. We have things, let me pull up the list here. Very creative. So we have things like a lot of us, including the artists, had a huge outcry for plushies, which is something that I've spoken on last week, even. Other community members requested things like sleeves, binders, and deck boxes, which, of course, are your traditional TCG accessories, along with staples like apparel, hats, shirts, so on and so forth. We also got some requests for artist proofs, which I would love to have as well. I think that'd be awesome. And then we got some more colorful ideas. We have MetaZoo Maniac's dad chimed in that they wanted some cryptid action figures. And I am all about that too. I'd love to have some for my desk. And even some MetaZoo themed kitchenware. I would love to have a Mothman apron. Not going to lie. I would do a lot more cooking. Mrs. MZN would be way more excited about that. My cooking, that is. So we also had things like a cryptid breakfast cereal with a lineup to rival Count Chocula and Boo Berry. That's right, folks. We can have Mothman O's, or maybe Fresno Pantyhose. That doesn't sound good. That's probably inappropriate. Regardless, a lot of very interesting suggestions in the Discord. And of course, this shows things like the player base investment into MetaZoo, wanting all these accessories, lining their homes with these things. Obviously, MetaZoo, as we all know, is a brand that's very intoxicating to some people, myself included. And, you know, when I get into something, I really do want to dive in head first. So my office, you can't see it, but it's lined with skateboards, plushies, wall clings, art, original art even, and some artist proofs. So all of these things are great ideas. I would even buy some MetaZoo themed kitchenware. I would do it. Though, obviously, they're never going to make these things. Now, they may make things like apparel, hats, shirts, plushie sleeves, binders, deck boxes. But the rest, we're probably not going to make. Now, I will say that, you know, old MetaZoo did have a bikini, so anything is possible. Anything is possible. Meta2, get on that bikini idea. I know, look, GWOAT, they had their last stream, which is another thing, but they, from what I've seen, they never sold any bikinis. If they have and you saw that, please correct me. But, you know, in my extensive experience of being in that stream, I didn't see a single bikini. I know they existed because you could buy them, and not to say that, like, I want one to wear, because who wants to see Mr. MZ in a bikini? But I think it would just be a cool thing to have. You know, it would just be a cool item. So I'm down with all these cool community wish list things. I think it was a really fun question to pose to the chat. Along with this, perhaps the biggest news item here, sorry for bearing the lead, is the Headless Horseman spoiler. So we got a look at a amazing artwork of the Headless Horseman. That is a 10 cost, 5 influence fire creature. It is a unique creature, so you can only have one in play. However, you also will note when you take a look at this, it has the aura enhancement symbol on it, and the ability here is entitled Gear Up. It states, on play, you may play each equipment from your hand without paying its base cost, and pair that up with someone like Surtur or other equipment-heavy cards or play styles, and this is going to go really hard. I mean, this is going to be good. And of course, you look at it and it's a 10 cost 5 influence, but you're not playing it for the influence, right? You're playing it for that effect. And of course, by turn 10, hopefully, if this is your strategy, you will have plenty of equipment cards in your hand. And if you're rolling with 3 of these in your deck, totally can see the insane value that you could get out of this. You really don't even need 3 in a deck, but regardless, I think it's a really cool card from Sleepy Hollow, New York. The flavor text here states, he rides with no eyes, yet sees every trespasser on cursed ground. It is card 118 out of 173, illustrated by the incredibly talented and famous Lily McKay, our very own Lily McKay. An excellent piece of art. There are also some rumblings in the Discord taking a closer look at the art, where you can see different cryptids lightly illustrated in the background. And I believe Anonymous Bob was the one to point out that there are a bunch of swords here in this page, and whose swords could they be? One user suggested Surtur, and I tend to think that they have something going on there, just because of how well this would jive in an equipment forward deck. And of course, Surtur would be in that deck too, and that of course is I keep saying of course, but anyway, that is the cryptid that we, MetaZoo News were able to spoil for Torrential Tides, so it does have a little special place in my heart. But the Headless Horseman, an amazing looking card. And just by the way, it is a super rare, 2-star super rare. But by the way, if you didn't already know this, you may take a look at some cards that are being spoiled, that are in Torrential Tides, and you will see a diamond at the top with some stars around it for some cards. If you were wondering what that means, that is just another symbol for to illustrate that it's a unique creature. So it will also say unique on the card, but that is your visual indicator that it is, in fact, a unique creature. The more you know. The more you know. So that is the other news segment here. One other thing, not related to the Headless Horseman, but we mentioned it just a moment ago. GWOAT had their very last MetaZoo stream on Whatnot, or so they say. I tend to believe them. With some crazy prices going on there. I think they had $6 for some, like a case of UFO or something. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it. I really wish I did, because I was really hoping to pick up some last-minute deals on Old Zoo. Who doesn't like to rip Old Zoo? Everyone does, right? So I was sort of hoping to get in on the action there, but oh well. But they had their last stream after 10-plus months of slinging old MetaZoo product and some new MetaZoo. But primarily old MetaZoo. They are done, and I saw some comments speculating on what's going to happen with any of their remaining stock, if they have any remaining stock, and I agree with the commenter that I saw that it most likely will just end up on Event HQ's eBay. That's what I would expect, at least. And I do like one of the comments that was in Discord earlier that I read, that I cannot recall who specifically said it. But they did say that it's nice because we will have come back to Whatnot and not have to compete against the insane prices that GWOAT had to offer for a lot of stuff. So hopefully that will help repopulate the MetaZoo section on Whatnot, even if it's not new MetaZoo stuff, to see some old faces go in their streams where they're not up against, a behemoth like GWOAT, I think will be great. So looking forward to seeing some normality return to Whatnot on that front. But yeah, it looks like that's the last we have seen of our friends over at GWOAT. So rest in peace, GWOAT. Thank you for everything you've done for the community. I think it goes without saying that a lot of us would never have gotten half of the old MetaZoo product that we currently have if it wasn't for them. So shout out to GWOAT. Sorry to see you go, but thanks for all you've done. And that is it for that portion of the news. And up next, we have some fun little stories Anonymous Bob shared from the Legends Expo, where MetaZoo introduced the game to brand new players. There were some fun stories about one young visitor wanting to become a cryptozoologist after meeting the team and left with a signed Sheepsquatch promo. Another attendee who came to buy Pokemon ended up buying a MetaZoo box after chatting with the artists Poncho and Jet, and pulled 2 alternate arts and a legend rare. I mean, is there a better introduction to MetaZoo than that? And of course, those stories, along with other ones that I have told, just go to show how powerful conventions as a space are for putting out MetaZoo to the world. And obviously, like we have stated in many different episodes, we would love to see some traditional marketing, but again, conventions are where it's at in terms of actually introducing something like MetaZoo, a brand new game, to people. Sure, you can put ads out, but if they have no idea what the game is about or anything like that, then it is obviously going to be a tougher time selling it. So I think that with the Legends Expo, with Collecticon, with Card Party coming up, I think that it's great. And this game has such an amazing entry point that it is easy to learn, hard to master, like we've said in the past. But it's always nice to hear fun little stories like that about seeing, the joy light up in someone's eyes once they understand the game, or when they just understand and click with the concept of cryptids, myths, legends, stories coming to life. I think that is beautiful in and of itself. Next, we had some questions from the community surrounding more GQL or MetaZoo video content. Anonymous Bob stated, quote, "Yeah, we've been discussing more short form videos. The base set video went over well, but needless to say, it's a big production to put together," end quote. And yeah, I fully enjoyed and loved everything they've put out on their YouTube because it is really well produced. And a lot of it's really funny, to be honest. I mean, they do a good job acting. So I think having more content like that on YouTube would be great. They already put out some good content on Instagram and other social medias, but I do think pumping out some more videos would be fun, and almost all of them have gotten some great responses from the community, especially with just how silly some of them are, but still, convey the rules of the game and things like that. And as they introduce new mechanics, I think that's a perfect time for them to release a new video that goes over that mechanic, maybe shows it in a game, that kind of thing. Next, we discussed haunted tournaments on the horizon. So, Anonymous Bob was talking about hosting a tournament at a haunted location near Philadelphia. The event would feature prizes, exclusive playmats, and other things like that. I do believe that Bob, and I don't have it up in front of me, but Anonymous Bob went and talked to some hotel that was supposedly haunted, and they were like, we're just a boutique hotel. We're not on it. But regardless, I think it would be cool to do some tournaments at some spooky places, or at least places where cryptids have been sighted, or where they're supposedly local to. I think any of those things would be a really fun place to play. And if you recall, at several weeks ago, Charlie, when asked about the fourth wall for the 20,000th time, Charlie did say that there could be some specialized instances in organized play where some fourth wall effects might return. And so I think maybe a haunted setting, or a setting where we're local to a cryptid's origin, would be a great way to reintroduce at least some fourth wall mechanics in a very limited fashion. So of course, if we're in Point Pleasant, maybe we have a fourth wall effect relating to having a Mothman card, or a fourth wall effect relating to just physically, or if you're in the view of the museum, do X and Y, something like that, So I do think that bringing those effects back for that limited purpose would be great. Of course, that is MetaZoo, right? I mean, the fourth wall is what drew a lot of people in. Obviously, it's polarizing to some degree. I don't think that a lot of the fourth wall mechanics, this is my opinion, were very well thought out. I think a lot of them made for some really silly encounters, and some of them were just impossible to fulfill in a realistic way. So I think refocusing them, making them very short form and specific to a location, is a good idea. So hopefully we get some haunted tournaments in the future. The last piece of news for this week's episode has to do with rarity tiers. So a fan was curious if new rarity tiers were going to be added. I believe it was Spooky Babe. Unclear if that was. I think Spooky Babe asked about legend rares. But regardless, hey, shout out to Spooky Babe, by the way. We did a sticker giveaway with her, and she is one of the best artists that MetaZoo has not picked up yet. MetaZoo, hire Spooky Babe. I want to see her art on cardboard. Anyway, A fan asked about new rarities, and Anonymous Bob said, quote, "Nothing new this round. We want the rarities to marinate a bit. After all, we just got Legend Rares. Ask me the same question around Set 4 spoiler season," end quote, and he left it at that. So, with that being said, that highly suggests to me, at least, that some change is coming down the line, and we're either going to be taking away or adding a rarity tier. It would surprise me if we ever took one away, but it sounds like Set 4 is going to introduce something new in terms of rarity. So speculation is abound, of course, about what that might be, but only time is going to tell. But a very interesting wording from Anonymous Bob on that front. But I do think right now we're at a sweet spot with Legend Rares, Hidden Rares, Alt Arts, and of course everything else, your Super Rares, Uncommons, Commons, so on and so forth. I think we're at a good spot right now, being on set number 2. I'm interested to see how we expand all that into set 3. I'm sure all of you are too. So that is it for the news portion of the podcast this week. One last thing, folks, on some news here. MetaZooNews.com has just put out our brand new Torrential Tides database. It is going to be our new card database. It's a custom plugin that I've built for our website, and it looks awesome. It looks awesome. Not to toot my own horn, but I think we did a pretty good job on it. You can sort by just about anything: traits, type, subtype, even by artist. Anything and everything you can think of, we have digitized every part of that card, put it into a database, and it is searchable. Our new database, you can have a picture view or a table view, up to you, and once you click on one of the cards, it takes you to its very own page. So all 259 cards have their own unique page with all of their info on it, and the next update we're going to put out will allow you to compare up to 2 cards. Maybe we'll do 3. But for now, I'm going to code up to 2 cards side by side, because some of the cards in Torrential Tides do say, like, and I don't know if this is the exact verbiage, but something like other anomalies get X or gain Y, something like that. So I thought it would be a good idea to have the ability to compare cards like that against one another. So that is our next update, but you can find the brand new and beautiful Torrential Tides database on MetaZooNews.com. And you can access it by just clicking on the resource tab, and it'll be the first option you can click on. So definitely go check that out. Give me some feedback. And if you have any suggestions for new features, I am all ears. Now we are on to the community roundup portion. The community roundup portion this week is going to be pretty light. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but just some suggestions for you if you're hungry for some zoo content. MetaZoo Menace seemingly continued to put out MetaZoo content, so hell yeah, shout out to you, MetaZoo Menace. Put out a 13.5-minute MetaZoo Monday recap, and put out a video about MetaZoo after GWOAT. And of course, we can now see on eBay, since GWOAT's like done selling it on whatnot, that those prices, they're gonna go up. So I would just be cognizant of that. If you still want to buy old zoo, I would try to buy some now before the people who bought stuff in bulk start to try to make some money off of it. Also put out, as always, an MetaZoo eBay sales video. The Jackalope Club put out podcast number 4 a mere 4 hours ago from the recording of this podcast. So go check out Ben and Anonymous Bob talk about anything and everything on that podcast. It is an hour long of goodness. Nuclear Bob or Magic Mark. Oh, Lord. Anyway, that's from the Jackalope Club. Our friend TMX has put out a couple videos. A 3.5-minute video, a speedy review of MetaZoo Monday and of the newest spoiler. Also put out a video entitled Rip GWOAT 2024 to 2025, where they discussed that last stream. Also put out a video, MetaZoo Weekend Review, Philly Legends Edition, if you want to go and check that out from the Legends Expo in Philadelphia. And we have DBD19 with a purchase from Mesopotamia on eBay. It looks like you got some comics and slabs. So always a fun time to unbox stuff for the community. But that is our abridged community roundup. And hey, if you want to have your content definitely appear on the community roundup, just reach out on Instagram at metazoo.news or at meta.shab. And I will get back to you and make sure that we include it in the next episode. And one last thing, be on the lookout, folks, for a new MetaZoo News, breaking news segment that will be coming out soon, where we are collabing with one of your favorite YouTubers to bring some exciting and breaking news straight to you. We will be posting that on Instagram for your watching enjoyment. So make sure to stick around for that. And from here, this is where I leave you this week. MetaZoo News, episode number 5, signing off. Sayonara.